Everything you write goes into the wet concrete of history and sets for all time with no do-overs and no edits. Don't think that I have to turn into a saint. I don't have to be Saint Stephen in the next minute, but actually just continue to grind and improve and apologize and write that dialogue. Every time you've written bad dialogue, write the dialogue of apology and forgiveness. But what you want to be is you want to be good weather for people around you. There will be more difficult scenes. There will be life and death scenes. There will be really difficult ones, and you will have built the muscles for those scenes or not. Tom's nose draws him back to a more immediate horror. A you with a gross. Impossible.
Met a ghost of a king on the road when I first fell. Fire burning to my knees I fell. Met a ghost of a king on the road.
Welcome to SAS. We've already started enjoying this particular pitch.
Welcome. It's SAS.
Yeah, this segment,
we're still
of course,
here. We're still going. We haven't quit yet.
The segment Make Me Famous. We'll add more segments
which
as well.
Brian named, not me, which is funny because we're not making people sign their pitches. So we're not really making people famous, but
ooh, they feel the fame, I think, as they
do
listen.
They? Okay.
I've just heard back as your Dave Ramsey roast from last time.
What did I do?
You called, yeah, for one of them, you said it was like a Dave Ramsey fan fiction. And this pitch writer said he was listening with his wife and they died laughing. So they do feel famous.
Okay. That sounds, I wish I remembered that.
Anyways, yeah.
High above the plain at the edge of Big Bluff Homestead, Tom watches his neighborhood burn on the horizon. Again, the defenders of his country are scorching their own ground in a rolling retreat. But Tom's nose draws him back to a more immediate horror. A you with a prolapse that he has to push in. Gross. Impossible.
Gross and impossible were in.
With his uncle drafted to war, young townie Tom is tasked with keeping the farm together and to do gross things to the backsides of sheep.
That was not in there. Nate's editorial, I think.
Yes. Each day the fire draws closer. It's a very slow fire. His grandpa gets crazier, his cousins get rowdier, and the cowardly officers demand more supplies. Blistered and out of his depth, Tom wishes for someone with a backbone to make it all stop. That's when a white biplane, not blue, not red, not yellow, but white, crash lands on the plateau with a man looking for him. Bum, 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 bum.
See, it starts with a scene, Nate.
Bum, 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 bum.
It puts you in a place. There's a you. It's trying
and
to
he
get...
says, I need a you with a prolapse. Do you know where I can find one?
The officer. Yeah, the officers are demanding
supplies.
Sheeps.
They need more sheep.
They need mutton.
Mutton. They need some fresh wools.
Yeah. Maybe we should let the audience do this one.
I don't think so. I think that we have to do it, Brian. So let's do it.
People are certainly happy that we have a main character who's named and is doing
Tom.
something in a place.
Yes, he's doing something, and he's doing something on the edge of Big Bluff Homeschool Co-op.
Homestead. We keep confusing things.
So
his neighborhood is burning.
Which is weird. His neighborhood, it's like his region.
I think it means far away. It's not his own home.
There's smoke over there. I was challenged by a producer friend who happens to listen to this thing. He was like, you know what? You just need to take the pitch and find a way to make it work. He's like, that'd be more interesting than just being sad. Which I'm going to go ahead and take this and be like, okay, so what would have to happen for this to work, Brian? There's a man looking for him.
Yeah. It has to be connected with everything else that went before.
The war.
Yeah.
Okay. What does Tom have that will turn the tide of this conflict and spare Big Bluff Homestead from any further ravages?
A secret weapon? News?
Nerves of steel?
A blue biplane?
See you with prolapse. He's got the herbs of steel. What does he have?
His failure to have veterinary skills seems kind of unrelated. We don't need James Harriet right now.
I don't know. Are we going into like the prophetic pig thing? Are we going Lloyd Alexander? Does he have a barnyard animal that's actually
on which the
like what kind of world is this? I need to not look at your AI picture and just be like, okay, it feels very World War One.
Mm-hmm.
So if I think about a story in World War One, I'm thinking about the first industrialization of warfare.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about artillery and nerve gas and other things. If we're going back further, are there cavalry charges? What kind are there trenches being cut, through the pastures? Why is he still here? Why is he not evacuated? If it keeps coming closer every single day, what's the, when is it too close? When do you just leave and say goodbye to the sheep? But most importantly, what does he have? So in order for this pitch to be filled out, he would need, so we have his uncle who was drafted off to war. We don't know where his dad is, but his uncle gave him something. Why his uncle wouldn't have deployed it, I don't know. But what does he have that is going to turn the tide of the war? And it would have to be something left to him, something that his grandfather had, something that his father had, something that his uncle had, a map. Like, what exactly is it? Yeah. So that's going to be hard to make convincing.
Yeah.
You have to have Tom Farm Boy.
Because you'd have to go full like superhero ability or secret. I think you saw that won't work with a veterinarian boy.
I think part of it is we've set such a strong tone of realism.
Yeah.
It's like this is World War I realism. This is barnyard realism.
Right.
And so, okay, so where are we going to insert the magic and the magical realism? We'd have to go truly mind-bending Borges. This would have to be really kind of quirky, weird, like interdimensionality, strangeness for Tom to be getting pulled. Mm-hmm. Is this Terminator? He's the guy who's going to save the world in the future, but
they're sending assassins. Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, assassins, or they're going to save him. Somebody's looking for Tom. So I think that the biggest thing is for somebody to put the pitch together, they didn't put the pitch together. Mm-hmm. So we have a setting, right? And then we have somebody's looking for Tom. Why?
Yeah.
We have a very clear, concrete setting, which I appreciate. So we're on a barn, we're on the bluff, we can see the battle line. It's coming closer every single day. He's stuck running the farm. If we were to try to quirk this into more of a fantasy world or high fantasy, it's a different kind, no biplane. Mm-hmm. It's a different kind of warfare. You can see the battlefield raging. You can see that going on, but this is actually more steampunk, or this is
right.
Elves.
It's going to transfer into a quest fantasy, and we're going to travel to go get something.
But then we can have then you can have a ring, to use the super obvious one that, the Tolkien one, the downstream thing, some kind of family heirloom that is mm-hmm. the deal. In this case, this is sort of Wheel of Time, somebody coming after him. You are the one, you are the dragon, like you're the prophesied dragon or whatever. Mm. And so what we need for this pitch to be a thing is to know why Tom's important. What's so critical about Tom? Where is he needed? And how's he going to have to go grow in order to, achieve that role, fulfill that role. So in this case, we know that he's already tough enough to deal with with a prolapse. That's awful specific. Yeah. A lot of specificity there without getting to the specificity of,
right.
Okay, why does somebody want him?
Right.
And I'm still scrolling in my head to try to make something up of why somebody would want him that would work with the specificity that's already come.
It is interesting that the narrator tells you so much, or narrative voice, and the fact that he knows it's called a prolapse immediately puts him in a subset of 13-year-olds that is very small. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the person writing this is not him, themselves.
Right.
Familiar with what readers know. So we have a very, very barnyard, like you said, Harriet, veterinary humor and setting, warfare over there.
It feels like it's trying to be Foyle's War, but with a kid, and that's a tough thing to pull off. because it can't sort of be a periodical piece like set. We're telling about World War II while we do detective stories, which is kind of the conceit of Foyle's War, and this feels like it wants to be that real, but then he's wishing for someone with a backbone to make it all stop. Apparently, Tom's supposed to be that. Yeah,
I'm not sure why a backbone would make everything stop. If you have like legitimate national warfare.
Right.
So this could be, I would say, if you're going to try to make this work, this would need to be Tom going on basically in the refugee column, trying to save as many of his animals, his family's animals and his siblings as possible. So you send Tom on the road, the lines are getting too close. And then now you're traveling, and you're traveling with highly desired objects, food sources for both armies. How many of his animals survive? Like, how many can he save and successfully get to, whatever, his grandfather's brother's farm, somewhere. So if you're going to try to get there, and then you have adventures, and it's a quest, but it's a quest of survival for his family. And it's, it's more personal, and it doesn't have the grandiosity to it. It's just intensely personal, trying to preserve the source of life for his family that was left to him. Then as you lose animals along the way, it becomes really intense. It becomes really like a big deal when somebody gets the pig.
Yeah.
The pig's gone, and his little herd is going to shrink and shrink and shrink.
Right.
So
nice. Okay, one more. Maccuil is a bitter thief in a changing world and does not like it. Christianity is coming to Ireland, I forgot to hold this up, and threatens the old ways, the old stories, which Maccuil lived through in 10 previous lives, for he is one.
10 previous lives?
He is one of the Tuatara de Danane. I don't know how to do Irish, I'm sorry. The gods of Ireland. This is his last life, and he wants his people to be remembered.
It's pronounced Toots de Danny.
Toots de Danny. Yeah, probably right. A Welsh person was making fun of how we said Prydain. And I said, fair enough. I am what I am. I don't know how to say Prydain.
I don't care what the Welsh say.
But he is caught, back to Maccuil, is caught and sent adrift on a sea with the promise he will find the key to his chains again and he will survive. While reliving memories in his dreams and seeking to be free, he must decide whether what he thought of the past is true or if this coming change is for the better, all the while seeking to be freed from his chains. This pitch is taken in the Irish mythology as being true about reincarnation, along with the hagiography of Saint Magold being true as well. Thief named Maccuil came across Patrick, was chained and sent off in a boat, came to the Isle of Man, converted to Christianity by 2 apostles Patrick had sent there, and eventually Maccuil became the Bishop of the Island. There we go. I know Nate has problems with reincarnation, but the setting requires it. That's the last note.
I mean, it's hard to argue with something when somebody just has such a clear thing they want to do. You'd have to write this brilliantly for people to want to read it. So it's an unrelatable situation. So
yeah, you're a reincarnated God who's wrestling with the coming of a new religion.
Yep, the true one. But apparently you're real, and you've been demanding what kind of worship, what kind of role have you, filled in this society? What's your relationship to God is kind of critical. So obviously you're a rebel of some kind because you're a deity in Ireland. Later he's gonna convert, but when we get to reliving memories of his 10 lives, it's like, whoa. This would be, there are authors who could do this, and it would be really interesting to read. And there could be really kind of potent insights into these different time periods. And it could be visceral and striking, but I don't care about him, and neither will anyone else. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to view this as a series of paintings, but not as a story, I'm going to do this painting, I'm going to do this painting, I'm going to do this painting. And eventually they're going to go from pagan, really, really darkly pagan, to Christian. The final one's going to be Christian. It's a weird biography of Irish mythology and the conversion of Ireland. Okay. I mean, that's great. But if you view it as like a series of sketches or poems or paintings, that's fine. If you're trying to get a through arc and you're trying to write a traditional novel, this is really, really, really difficult to do, because trying to anchor people with deep connectivity to a main character who is A, divine, B, reincarnated on repeat, has 10 lives, has the last, he has the last life. And his big urgent thing is he wants his people to be remembered. Well, we all remember the Irish, so there's no tension.
We haven't forgotten them.
Yeah, it's like we know that. So his tension there is going to be tough to feel and tough to relate to. And on multiple levels. There's just on every facet. This is not a shoe that fits a human foot.
Right. Jump over to Moana, for example.
Yeah.
Nice job with he wants to fix his hook. Like we go to the divine. Yeah. The divine character in that one has a very understandable stakes. I was like, my magic hook is almost broken. And I can't transform into cool creatures anymore, and I'm going to get killed. You know? So that's pretty understandable. This one here, he wants to be free of chains. I don't really understand what that means. The keys to his chains, and he will survive.
We'll find the key to his chains again.
Yeah, and then even jump, if I'm thinking previous lives, what? Puss in Boots. It's tough to think of a way that handles previous lives, and even that, we only care about the latest one.
Yep.
And you're going to use the other ones for laughs of like, we're going to quickly run through all, 8 of Puss in Boots's previous lives and how he died and use them for laughs. And then now we're into the last one. And the whole point is that he's out after this. I don't know. I'm not feeling. One thing I've appreciated about Ashtown and your use of the divine ones is how clearly the stakes are. And you don't, you're never wondering if Radu Bey is going to turn out to actually be a good guy. And I do feel like
he's misunderstood.
Yeah, I do.
Like his brother Vlad, who was just a defender of Christendom.
Well, now you're referencing things that our listeners have not discussed yet.
It doesn't matter. It's okay.
Moving past.
Here, this guy, it'd be very difficult. And what you said is very important. People only care about this life. And as you're reliving old lives, it becomes an art piece. It really does. Instead of a flowing narrative where we follow a character journey in any kind of traditional sense. And those have been done, and they have been done well. There are people who can do that. And so if you want to try to tackle these portraits and treat them that way and have people really feel moments in time, as opposed to investing in a particular character on a particular journey, then knock yourself out. It's like, museum pieces, and it's not traditional narrative. So this isn't a don't do it.
Could you think of what's the best comp, or what's a writer you'd pick to do this? Like, are we talking Cannery Row? That's sort of a similar sort of.
Yeah. I mean, Steinbeck could do it.
That's an easy one.
I'm trying to think. James Joyce.
Marilyn Robinson obviously approaches the same sort of just free-flowing, shapeless.
Yeah.
Like
visceral sensation. I'd say Andy Dillard does this, where she'll do very, very visceral sensation located in particular moments that don't necessarily hang together, into one thing. And she's good in those moments, but the overarching thing is weaker. It's much weaker and more of a failure. So, well, let's just tie it together and say, if you want to do this like a series of standing stones, and that's all you're going to do is you're going to stand up these stones in a circle, and people are going to come look and say, whoa, look at those stones standing in a circle. Then great. That's what this could be.
You're writing a book of essays, creative essays on.
Yeah. Creative moments, creative sketches. Yeah. So if you look at this guy who he's a bitter thief, and he doesn't like Christianity coming. He's getting put out to sea. He's going to live one more life. This is it. And all he really wants is for his people to be remembered. And then we get to eventually he's going to convert, and eventually he's going to become a saint. And that means he's going to do miracles. And eventually he's going to be the bishop. That's a lot, to get from here to there.
Yeah.
So what that means is here's standing stone number 1, here's standing stone number 2, here's standing stone number 3. I'm going to jump down the road where he's actually converted, and I'm going to do standing stone number 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. But those different blocks that you set up, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing to do, but you better feel a pretty deep burning urge to commit to it because it's not going to be fun for anyone along the way. There's no normal
Story
uh,
grip.
story grip at all.
Mm.
You're going to have to say, hey, please come look at my rocks I stood up. And then people will come say, nice.
Yeah.
Or I read the first 1.5 and I struggled to keep my forward motion.
That's definitely what will happen.
Yeah.
It would either have to be history.
Your prose would have to be so rich that they're reading it for the sake of the prose. And that's what I mean when I think about.
You're talking Pilgrim at Tinker's Creek.
Yeah.
Where
City of Bohane. Trying to remember the name of the guy who wrote that. Irish writer. I didn't care about any of the short stories, these short moments. I didn't care about any of them, in terms of the character arcs. But his descriptive abilities were so great that I was really interested in watching his prose craft. So if this is executed by a prose genius, people are going to come for the prose genius and they're going to watch somebody show off, with their independent paintings. It's just not the traditional novel.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out. 5 years, tell us how it went.
5 years. Jumping into a question from a mom, little parenting storycraft perhaps. How do you train a young 6-year-old boy with no self-control? The examples she gives are, crying at his marble tower falling down, screaming when he stubs his toe, frustrated getting his shoes on. Discipline, seems to not make it better. Any training scenarios you'd use to help practice self-control? This is kind of more of a parenting advice question. It's a bit of a shift of gears for us, but I think, how do you analyze your own child's spot in their story when you're hitting a very young kid at your 6-year-old?
You have to help them see themselves in their story.
Yeah.
And I'll tell one story on one of my kids, but it's not, I'm not going to dive in deep here. There's too many variables.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was talking to a person that I knew and I knew the family and I knew the kid, then I could get a lot more pointed. I don't want to give concrete advice that could easily be wrong given certain situational changes. Is the kid adopted?
Mm-hmm.
Was there fetal alcohol syndrome? Like, what are we talking about? Is dad around? Like, there's so many things.
You just don't know.
It's like, oh yeah, dad's here, but he's not a Christian. He drinks a lot. And then, it's like, there's so many things, so many variables here. But I'll say this. One is I always try to incentivize self-control for my kids. So even with any kind of discipline, they learned math really fast because on all discipline, they had the opportunity to have their discipline cut in half if they behave themselves. So it didn't matter what you were doing. It's like, hey, if you're going to go take a reading rest, or whatever, if there's going to be corporal punishment or you're going to be put in your bed for a while with books, then you need to be quiet. If you can control yourself and read, then you can be done in 30 minutes. Otherwise, if you're having any trouble, if you're being sad that I'm doing this, then it's going to be an hour. Like, it's going to be a full hour in your bed.
Yeah.
Because in our house, Article 17 was, I would cite Article 17 is if you can fuss here, you can fuss in your room. Or if you're going to fuss here, you can fuss in your bed. And so, if you couldn't control yourself, it's like, okay, there we go. Physically disciplining a lack of self-control is not always smart.
Yeah.
But again, all depends on the situation. Can be. So I would give them the opportunity to cut it in half. But always try to tell them the story. Like, who's the little kid who always freaked out? And I would tell them stories that imitated their weaknesses about little kids who were doing like Sir Battle-Lot's a great one for a kid like that.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody who's cranky, fussy, whiny, always upset, tell them stories about people who are cranky, whiny, always upset. Then nobody likes them. Nobody likes that kid. And how that kid struggled to get control and, work to get self-control and so on. My oldest son was a mighty, mighty perfectionist in some ways. It's very stubborn, but he needed things to be precise and right, or he could be very upset. And I think it was the first grade, might have been the second grade, but I think he was 6. And he, as we would say in our family, lost the bubble. So among the cousins, like losing the bubble, like you're upset and you're emotional.
Is that a Mario reference? Super Mario?
And no, he lost the bubble because his green crayon broke. He snapped his crayon in the second grade classroom. I think it was second grade. It might have been first grade, but I think it was second. He snapped the crayon and lost the bubble.
Okay.
And so his teacher sent him to the office. And I had encouraged the teacher. It's like, if he starts being emotional or frustrated, as a perfectionist about anything, send him to the office. Like, just send him. Go. Like, do not hesitate. Do not try to give him extra grace. Just pull the trigger. And I told him that I had told his teacher that. Well, he snaps his green crayon. He gets upset. His poor broken crayon. And he...
that is pretty bad, though.
Yeah. He gets sent off to then Mr. Whitling's office. Mr. Whitling is now the school district superintendent for our big Logos school conglomerate. And then he was elementary principal. And so my son goes and sits down with him, and he has a very vivid memory of Mr. Whitling drawing a broken green crayon, just sitting there quietly, like while my son was sitting there watching, and drew a broken green crayon, and then he drew a broken femur. And because there had been Paul Ryan, who's older, had snapped his femur in PE, and he went on to be a great runner and very successful. But he'd snapped his femur in PE and hadn't cried. And so Mr. Whitling drew the two pictures and pointed at the green crayon and pointed at the femur. And it's like, this older boy, who at the time was probably in 8th grade or something.
Yeah.
This older boy just had this big thing, and it was all the news. All the news with all the school kids was that this kid had snapped his leg and didn't cry. And Rory had snapped his crayon and cried. And Rory just, it enabled him to see which character he was being, like who he was being, how unreasonable this was, and how he needed to get control of himself and kind of invest in it. So instead of losing perception of yourself as a little kid and losing track and just feeling the pain, just feeling the frustration and succumbing to it, popping out a little bit and having some objectivity about how you're behaving. And so that's an example of how, our elementary principal did it with my son when he lost the bubble at school about a green crayon, and it worked great. It was really helpful and effective. And it's that kind of a thing. So a lot of it's going to happen.
The story lets you kind of jump out, I guess, in a way that's pretty tough to get that emotional distance.
You also need to do this, realize that you need to do it in the times when it's not happening. So when the kid is calm, you're telling stories and you're coaching and you're preparing your kid for the next time this happens.
It's not like a screaming fit, time for a story.
Yeah. So, and you can coach with like, hey, so next time this happens, we're going to yell code red. Like code red. And what does that mean? That means you're losing the bubble and you're losing control, and you have to realize who you're being in the story. But you need to sit there and talk them through it and tell them stories when they're calm, when nothing's going wrong, and coach them and prepare them for it. Just like a coach would prepare players for a game. And then when they bang their toe, it's like, oh, we're in the game. It happened. And you're helping them. It's like, oh, it hurts, but you can do it. Like, we can do it. And you're trying to coach them through it. But like I said, all the other variables, it's really hard to give actual advice. But I've found that treating little kids like anybody else, where they practice skills, they practice for particular strengths, they practice for these things. So if I yelled form up at my kids, they'd all run stand in a line by height, and I would do that, and we would play the tickle game, or we would have a sock fight, or I would talk to them about, they're losing control, they're fussing at each other, they're obeying too slowly. We would have the obey game, which we played before travel. We do a lot of the obey game, or how fast can you obey? And this is a game. We're going to see how quickly you can obey without asking questions or talking back. You can only ask your question after you've obeyed. So there's no why when you get told. The why has to happen after you do it. So you do it, and then it's like, why did I need to, come over here or whatever? But those, like practicing those things in the non-stressful moments is essential, so that when the moment is stressful, you can like refer to that language and to those skills that they have built to navigate it really well. And our kids did a great job and have traveled the world doing weird things, primarily with skills built, playing the obey game. And I would also do a cleanup game where I'd set a timer. They'd all have to run up to the attic and clean the whole attic. And then there was a set punishment for every article that I found on the floor or out of place. And so I was like, ah! And I would be yelling fee, fi, fo, fum as I'm coming.
Yeah.
And thumping up the stairs slowly while they're all going. And that kind of thing is like skill building. And so if you want to build a little 6-year-old boy's skill of self-control, he's going to have to lift weights. The pain happens in the game. Like that's game time. Over here, he's got to condition, he's got to lift some weights, he's got to actually prepare himself for that moment so he has the muscles to control the emotions when they show up.
That's kind of, I guess, getting to the further question. How come reading has sometimes this like self-indulgent view of it? Because what you're doing with stories, it's very much a proactive, it helps kids think about their situation. But then I think in a lot of popular view, it's much more of like reading a book as a self-indulgent sort of behavior.
And it is sometimes.
Is that just because people are doing it to avoid what they should be doing, or what's happened that's made reading kind of get this perspective of like, it's this.
I think we're not really in that problem as a culture right now.
Okay.
The problem as a culture we're in right now is not reading.
Okay, gotcha. So we're indulging ourselves in other ways.
Yeah, exactly. The self-indulgence is showing up in all sorts of other ways.
Yeah.
I would settle for people reading self-indulgently right now, and then we could
work on that one.
We could work on that, and we could try to refine that. But just trying to get kids to read and trying to get people to read it all is a challenge right now.
How do adults approach the sort of storytelling approach to your own lives or those around you? Like, is there a way that you see that transferring as a stage?
It should. It should. I mean, that's one of the things I really jump up and down on when I'm speaking places is like, see yourself in the story. And when people, and always I try to disabuse people of the belief that they're not writers. You're actually in the worst kind of hardest writing that there is, which is improv. And you are writing improv with no edits. Everything you write goes into the wet concrete of history and sets for all time with no do-overs and no edits. And it goes in 1 second per second. So every bit of dialogue you write, your emotional reactions to your kids, to your wife, to your husband, whomever it is in your life who gives you a hard time, all that temptation, you're going to write your dialogue. And God is going to say, like the wild God that he is, he's going to say, here, I gave you freedom. I need you to write your lines.
Yeah.
Here's your scene.
Oh, wow.
Write your dialogue. Most of us do a terrible job writing the dialogue. Most of us do a terrible job of receiving the scene and positioning ourselves in the scene correctly.
Right.
So how do we correctly handle this? Do we get frustrated? Do we get annoyed? Do we become impatient? And then really self-pity ourselves and feel bad for ourselves about how provoked we were. And most people put themselves in that self-indulgent center, and all of their narrative storytelling around the scene is about what justifies their actions and why they were so put upon.
Okay, so we're
always doing it.
We do our writing at the end of the scene.
Yes.
To make it whatever we did.
Retroactively try to make what we did okay.
Ooh, that's one of the worst kind of novels.
Yeah.
Rather than the proactive one. It's the one that's just talking.
In the moment when you're writing the dialogue and when you're thinking about, my kid just dropped the gallon of milk on the stairs. Like, okay, this is your improv. This is your moment. There's a scene. You got given this scene. How are you going to do it? And realizing that you're a character in their biography, you're in the early chapters of their biography. My mom would always erupt at me whenever I made a mistake. Like, you're going to be this mom who's a volcano in their early chapters, and you're just somebody they tiptoe around because they're always going to make a mistake. They're a kid, so of course they are. Or my mom was so incredibly patient with me. I remember my uncle describing my grandmother. He had come home in a blizzard and was sliding down the driveway and couldn't get to the front door and was just miserable and sad. And he kept sliding on the ice and he couldn't get home. And she didn't see him. She didn't see out the window, and he was just stuck. And this was, I think it was in Michigan, one of those lake system blizzards. And when she finally saw him and he finally got in, she got him in the bath, put him in the bath, and then brought him a bowl of Fruit Loops in this like Pyrex bowl that she floated in the tub in front of him, and left. Like gave it to him. Like this was the comfort. And that touch, that like maternal touch, was something he talked about at her funeral.
Yeah.
Here's a little kid with a bowl of Fruit Loops in the water.
Man.
And like those things, when mom does the unexpected thing,
Yeah.
like, doesn't she know I'm going to get them in the bath? Like,
Yeah.
doesn't like what's going to happen? Those touches are fantastic and lasting. So
Gotcha.
who you are in your people's story.
Mm.
So who you are to your neighbors, who you are to your siblings, who you are to the people at the grocery store, who you are to the person who parked in front of your street that you wish hadn't parked there. Are you the jerk? You're that guy. You're that stereotype. Here's your improv scene. And you decided to write that behavior in the wet concrete of history for all time. You decided to write those lines of dialogue. Why would you write those lines of dialogue? So adults they have so much more self-awareness, but they still could just lose the bubble and forget where they are and just react like little fleshly morons. See yourself in the whole scene. And your job is to behave in such a way and to write dialogue in such a way that honors God.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop.
Yeah, and
that's it. And it can be funny. It can be unexpected. It can be playful. But what I cannot do is dishonor God as you are taking his name in vain every time you do. So you are a Christian. You're baptized. Here's your scene. Here's your scene. Here's your scene. Over and over and over again. And you get some really intense ones, really surprising ones, life or death scenes, mostly trivial, funny scenes. But we get all sorts. And
that's really interesting because we talk about not losing the bubble, not losing your self-control. That's the negative side. Positive side, I think we daydream about heroism sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're like, if this happens, I jump in front of the bus and save the kid, right? Seldom, but there's a whole range of everyday situations. What sort of goal are you shooting for? How often are you like, wow, this part of what this day needs is a memorable moment right now?
You should be having fun and being fun.
Yeah. Okay.
So what you want to be is you want to be good weather for people around you. And so most of the time when you're just walking through scenes, like, are you going to walk up and it's like you're a little black rain cloud and they just get like flap, 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 some fat raindrops in their face and you walk off? Or are you a sunbeam? Like, are you a nice wind? Are you, a bird on the fence post? Like, what are you to all these people around you in those short moments? And so if you're just blowing through scenes, which we are most of the time, so at the grocery store, we're blowing through other people's scenes, how you're behaving in those scenes is tiny. And if you're like, you know what, I need to make aggressive eye contact and smile at everybody. That's probably not how to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to be warm and friendly, and I'm not going to be snapping at somebody on the phone. I'm not being flustered. I'm not tense and pushing my cart around, being all tense. Like, what kind of weather are you? Just your weather. You're a smell. You're an aroma, and you're like light through the clouds, or you're that breeze that comes through, and you're just pleasant to be around, whether somebody's checking out your groceries or standing in line behind you. What is it? And we all know what it's like to stand behind somebody who's being obnoxious or tense.
Yeah.
Or you're just kind of, eyeballing them. So it's really low stakes.
Yeah.
It's a very low stakes thing. Most of our scenes are very low stakes.
Yeah.
But it turns into high stakes stuff pretty fast. And we also
it stacks. That's how stories work.
Yeah, it stacks and you get good at it. Right. So this is back to building skills. It's like, oh, this is easy.
Right.
This is easy. This is easy. Oh yeah. Well, you better rep it. You better nail it. If it's easy, you better be 100% score.
Yeah.
But guess what? The level of difficulty will go up. There will be more difficult scenes. There will be life and death scenes. There will be really difficult ones, and you will have built the muscles for those scenes or not.
The funny one around strangers is when you finish something and then realize what you should have done.
Yeah. But that's great. That's you just watching the game film.
Yeah.
So
you're just like,
okay.
oh, I missed the chance.
After action report, game film. Okay. I could have written my dialogue better. You're looking at the improv. I wrote some bad dialogue in the concrete of history. I'll aim for better next time.
Or you're just going through, you're not affecting. That's one too. And again, obviously, you don't want to always into everybody's business. We're not Dolores Umbridge in everyone's life, but it's funny that you do have the choice to either interact or not on most.
I can tell you that
situation.
how you tip, for example, is going to impact people in their narrative way more than you probably expect. So I've always enjoyed tipping generously.
Yeah.
And it's just been, it's really fun and it's enjoyable and it does have an impact. It will affect people. And it's really fun to do that. It's really fun to like blow through people's afternoons. And especially if you have somebody who's kind of terse or a waitress who's not paying any attention and she's stressed out and she's just not thinking much because you're just ordering drinks or whatever, like brighten their day.
Yeah.
And it will kind of like check their own behavior. They will be benefited by that. When the kids were little, I used to call Pizza Hut, which at the time was this actual hut, it was like the old original hut.
Yeah.
We'd call in a carryout order to Pizza Hut because what we didn't want to do is take our little minions into Pizza Hut and sit down and do the whole waitress thing and then wait for pizzas to be made with our little villains, because our little villains, they don't have that kind of endurance yet. We haven't built up that endurance, but it was special for our kids where it's like, we're going out to a sit down restaurant.
Yeah.
Pizza Hut. So we would call in the order, and what would end up happening is you'd roll in to pick up the carryout, and I would always say like, hey, actually, we've decided to eat in here. Take the pizzas. We go sit down. That makes you the worst.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So having some self-awareness of now I've got people who have to bust these tables, and I've got waitresses, and I've already paid, and they're not working for a tip or anything like that. And so the first time we did it and we blitzed that table, it's like I've got a bunch of little kids and we're all eating pizza.
Marinara sauce everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And breadsticks. And, and we blitzed the table and I tipped very heavily. We were not well off at all, but I tipped heavily for the privilege of having done that. And the next time we walked in that Pizza Hut, they were thrilled to see us. Immediately remembered us, thrilled to see us. You become more familiar and more conversational. In the back of that Pizza Hut, they had a bookshelf where they had all the books my grandfather had given them. All these like evangelism books, because he would always give the waitress this Christian book always, every time he was in there. And he and my grandmother would go to this Pizza Hut, get their tiny little personal pizzas. This was like 1980s, early 90s.
Yeah.
They had that bookshelf there. But who you are, when they find out who you are and they're like, oh, he's connected to that Doug Wilson guy, or he's that Jim Wilson's grandson, you are part of other people's narratives too. Or they go to that church. Man, this guy with a Christchurch bumper sticker, you should have heard him at the gas station.
Yeah.
Well, he was so pissed off at me. Like he thought it was his turn at the pump and, he was yapping or whatever. And you're like, man, thanks a bunch, guy.
Yeah.
Because you're telling a story for the whole body there.
Right.
Instead of remaining chill, instead of being a good character in that scene, you screwed it up. And you screwed it up for yourself. You screwed it up for your community. You screwed it up for God and the name you bear. So in those moments, don't do that. And so the threshold of being able to weather hardship, micro hardship, just annoyance. So like that little 6-year-old kicking something with a toe, the ability to weather micro annoyance takes you up to the ability to handle trials. Like you're building the muscles for the big ones, the big scenes. And people right now, left and right, are complaining about Erica Kirk's smile.
Oh, yeah.
Which, like, how could she smile on a podcast 2 weeks after her husband was murdered? How could she do that? They want her to behave the way they would in their stories. Constant self-pity.
That's a good way of looking at it. I thought, how do you have any right to try and write how she behaves?
Yeah. And so they have notes. They have notes, and then they're going on to IMDb and they're leaving a 4-star review because they don't like how she's playing that part. And she's playing that part with too much joy. How could she? How could she be that strong? How could her faith be that strong? That's just awful. She should be in a black veil. She should be full of self-pity. She should hide herself away. She shouldn't be continuing her husband's work. She shouldn't actually believe that he is alive and in heaven.
Yeah.
You know, she shouldn't have absorbed. I guarantee you she's crying at night. I guarantee you that she's like navigating the emotional storms when she's in the silent times and other people aren't there and she's just alone. I guarantee you it's brutal.
Man. Yeah.
So when she comes out and she's actually being good weather for other people, despite the bad weather she's just gone
and an
through.
entire institution that now hasn't just lost their leader. I mean, it's like.
So she's doing an incredible job and people have notes.
Yeah.
They have notes. Now, sometimes people have notes on you. They'll be judgmental just because you have that many kids or something.
Right.
And when they say, you know, they figured out what causes that, you should have good dialogue.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to say?
Yeah.
How are you going to play it? And like, now improv, go write your dialogue, God says. And you have 1 second per second to do this. No edits. You don't get to chase them back down to the store and say, hold on. If I was saying that again, this is how I would say it. Like you get to say your line and then move on. One of my favorites in that example is when somebody uses that line, they figured out what causes that. Like, yes. And apparently I'm getting more of it than you are. It's one of the
classic one.
It's a classic one.
It's a fresh one. Also it's just it isn't, it's better than some sort of self-righteous thing.
The thing I've said the most is I need people to work the land. That's and then it's people that's the one I have used most frequently.
One of my relatives.
I used it today on a Zoom call, actually.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a good one. One of my relatives had a lady next to him in an airport complain about the number of kids that were in front, and they were his kids. That was a great moment too. He just said they're mine, and I like them a lot.
They're pretty fantastic.
Yeah, they're good stuff.
So it is. These are things I've always talked to my kids about from when they were very little, and I've told them like, remember, like, what characters you are when we go into places and when we go on the airplane, when we go to these places, like what characters are you being and what that says about your family, your church, your God.
Yeah, we're scene writing. Just like all these pitches here. It's you're
writing scenes and you're writing dialogue.
Tom with the U, but it is whatever.
It's a big deal. And again, just like with the little boy, practice in the moments where it's easy. And then you move up to the moments where, oh, my kid spilled something. Oh, I've got another diaper. Oh, somebody's throwing up all night. Like, how am I handling this? And do I spend all the time in a hardship just thinking about what a great number of likes and affirming notes I'll get when I post about it on social media tomorrow? Or are you actually just being a good character in the scene and not needing all the applause, after the fact? So as the level of difficulty goes up and up and up, your abilities need to go up with them. And you only get that by having practiced when it's actually easy.
So everybody's a writer.
So yeah, everybody's a writer. And that is the starting point. Everybody's writing because God made us that way and gave us culpable freedom. So yes, it's foreordained, but he also, in his mysteries, gave Pharaoh freedom.
Yeah.
He also, and when Paul's answering the question of, but how then can he judge us when we do a bad job if it's both foreordained and we're here? And he says, basically, who are you, oh man, is the answer. Yeah. Who are you, the pot, to question the potter? That's not for us to ask. We know it's the case that we have true freedom in that we are judged for our actions and we will be held accountable for our actions and how much light we sinned against and so on. And God knows exactly how much light that is. We know that. We also know that God has, before the foundation of time, foreordained and written like an author has written all of this. So how can those two things coexist? It's like, well, he's an infinite, transcendent creator God, and he tells us not to worry our stupid little heads with it. That's the answer from Paul.
Well,
who are you, the pot?
That reminds me of what you said about the kid who says why, but as soon as they obey, they no longer have the why question.
Yep.
That's whenever someone's like, well,
you get to ask why right after you've obeyed.
Yeah. It's like, right. Yeah. That question about like, how could I be responsible? You're like, well, why don't you try obeying first and then you can ask?
I've always told my kids, like, especially if we're outside and they say, come here, you will get over here. You will get here fast. And then if you need to know why I needed you, you ask that from right here. Because someday when you're in the street and the UPS truck's coming and I need you to get out of the street right now, I don't have time for you to say why. There is no why. Because you can think that it doesn't matter if I'm just saying, hey, come over here, I'm going to tell you something, or I'm going to show you something, or just something that doesn't matter at all. But there will be a time when it's a life or death obedience.
Yeah.
And I just need you to obey and then ask why.
Right.
Like, obey first and then ask. And it's amazing how rarely people have the question after they've obeyed. Like you said, the whole reason why we're asking is so we don't have to do it.
Yeah, after the basement's clean, my son is no longer interested in
and why that was important.
Why he had to clean the basement.
Why that mattered on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like suddenly all the philosophical questions evaporate like the morning dew. So for everybody and everybody listening to this, you are writing scenes right now, in a minute, next hour, and you're writing new ones every second that you're alive and conscious. And how much you try to get pity, how much you pity yourself, and how much you try to play for applause, or how much you sin because you deserved to, because they were really provoking you. Like you were allowed to in that situation. Like all that stuff is stupid. Like just get rid of it and honor God with your dialogue and honor God
Think of
with
that
your
bad
scene
pitch
choices.
just describing you.
Honestly,
yourself.
I would say, think about me or any other novelist. Take somebody even like way more talented than me. Let's take a Steinbeck or a Mark Twain or somebody, Tom Wolfe, and let's give that author absolute access to every one of your thoughts and temptations as they describe
as
you.
your 6-year-old freaks out on the floor. Yeah.
As they describe you in your scenes. So when your 6-year-old is misbehaving, when your husband was insufficiently appreciative of the meal, when your wife was insufficiently appreciative of you taking out the trash without having been asked. And so I could write that scene and make it hilarious. I could make so many people laugh about how self-congratulatory this husband was about taking the trash out without being asked. And then all his little fomenting in his head as he's thinking about, she hasn't even noticed. She hasn't even said anything.
She just threw something away and didn't even notice.
It's like, didn't even notice the empty bag. I even changed the bag. And lack of appreciation, the wife can do the exact same thing. And a really good author could sit there, and if they had a total like screen to your thoughts, it would be devastating.
Yeah.
It would be truly devastating for all of us. And that is the author that God is. And so training those instincts, like really, really training those narrative instincts into being better characters in every given minute. Just be a little bit better. And I would steal something from, I think it's James Clear, but 1% better. Just be better. Be better and continue to make progress. Don't think that I have to turn into a saint. I don't have to be Saint Stephen in the next minute, but actually just continue to grind and improve and apologize and write that dialogue. Every time you've written bad dialogue, write the dialogue of apology and forgiveness. It's like, and just continue to write the new stuff. That's not a do-over or an edit. That's new dialogue, new action, new dialogue. Get better, and continue to get better. And that's the process of sanctification. But just do it consciously. Get your nose to the right direction and start moving in that God-honoring direction and self-correcting every time you fail, and keep going just one step at a time.
That's great. There we go.
That's it for SASF today.